it's Chad with I Want to Know, and we have some special guests today, some fellow podcasters from the 2A Street. We have Aaron Kamitomo,
Hello.
and Abe Maweo.
Cheer.
Nice.
He usually likes it when you do something special like MAWOIO ABEEEE. He usually likes those kind of things. Because see, now he's getting engaged.
Well,
He
honey.
gets the
You know what I'm
energy up.
saying? I feel like I'm in the hood. You dig what I'm saying?
He was all quiet, sitting there, just mellow. Turn the mics on, and off he goes.
Yeah, no, that's how it all works. I mean, it's funny because throughout the week we'll sit there and we'll text each other like one or two sentences,
Sure.
like it's nothing. But as soon as we talk, like we don't when we get together in the morning, we don't even say anything. It's only when the mics are on that suddenly the whole world comes out.
right.
So
Just flip that switch for you guys.
it's totally different.
So I was just asking you guys before we turn the mics on. I still get nervous before I do a podcast, and I don't know why. Like, it's so silly. Most of the time, they're people I know and they're friends, but there's just this anxiety. Like, I want to make this good.
Yeah.
And I asked you guys about whether or not you get nervous.
Yeah, so I don't anyways anymore because I mean, Abe and I used to have some really good conversations prior to us watching this. And truly, it's just a couple of guys getting together. And I have so much to learn from this guy that everything is just a learning experience for me. I just ask him the guy questions. The only difference is we have microphones in front of us.
Yeah.
So it's just a conversation.
It's
So-
funny how the microphone changes it for a lot of people, though.
Mhm.
So we've had a few guests on here where they were super awesome before they got on, and as soon as the mic got in front of them, they're like, you had to dig the, the information out of them.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we don't normally record live either, so it's just really easy for us to just have the mentality that if we don't like something, we'll just delete it or edit it or
out.
something like that.
Yeah.
So if you can get past that, knowing that you're in control of it, then you're okay. When you go
True.
live, it's a little bit different. I get a little bit more nervous and I do more hand actions and stuff, but going when you can just not even post it is totally fine.
Very
So.
cool. So why'd you guys start the podcast? It's very inspirational, by the way.
No, man, you should tell what you think because I always say it the way that I imagined it, but I don't know if you saw it the same way.
Oh, man. It's the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a writer, you know, and my dog came out through. He's like, yo, I got this idea. You know what I'm saying? Let's get this thing where we can actually do a podcast, you know, and we just started out. So it's his brainchild, you know what I'm saying? And here we are.
So no massive motivation, just like that'd be really cool to record our conversation.
Yeah, you know, I actually don't know what my original motivation was to actually engage Abe. I ran into him at a youth event once and was just like, I want to know who's teaching my kids.
Yeah.
So I introduced myself to him. And then after a while, I was like, well, wait a minute, this guy's way more than what he just appears to be, you know, just as a youth leader. Because he's very quiet as a youth leader too, you know. And then, but as we got to know each other, I'm like, wait a minute, you do all this kind of stuff? And then I checked out his website, it's abemaweo.com. And then you realize that he's got all this content.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for whatever reason triggered, it's not that it was bad, but I said, you know, we're in a digital age. I think I can help you get online kind of thing and get a podcast for you. And I got all this video equipment and stuff that I'm not using. What do you say we try a couple of things? So the whole intention was actually to take his brand and lift it up. And then I was going to be the guy in the back. And then one day we were just sitting there and I'm like, let's just talk.
Yeah.
And now so October was 2 years of kind of meeting each
100,
other.
100.
And then
Cool.
coming May is going to be 2 years of on the air. And
Unbelievable.
and for whatever reason, we just show up on a Saturday morning and there's always something to talk about. We've yet to sit there and go, man, I don't know, let's just go home.
that was part of my motivation too. I would go on Saturdays and have coffee with my friends, and that'd be like 6 or 7 hours. We never run out of stuff to say. Like, it's, you know, the people I hang around with are very much into like self-awareness and self-betterment, and so they're always reading something that I don't have time to read, or, you know, listening to something that I don't. And so that's the reason I was like, why aren't we recording this? This is good stuff for people. So started inviting my friends on, and then you know, I met you guys. You guys are actually the inspiration for me to actually go ahead and do it.
Thanks, man.
Look what you done did, Aaron. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was like I said, I'm nervous before I start a podcast, and I was like, well, what if it sucks? What if no one likes me? What? And I met you for coffee, and you just kind of like, you know what, just put it up, whatever it is, and you make it better each time. And I was like, yep, okay, time to get it going, and we did. So yeah, thanks guys. comments.
Yeah, no worries there. I mean, it was kind of unintentional. I think we had decided early on that we were not going to do it for any other reason other than just to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So we don't go like searching or anything like that. We're experimenting a little bit with live and all that, but that's not for people. That's just for us to see, can we pull this off? You
That's
know,
very cool,
so it's always a learning experience for us.
It was actually a question I wanted to ask you guys too, is about goals. So like with your podcast, you obviously don't have like an end goal in it, but you have little goals throughout there. And I think goal setting is super important for everybody. You know, can we do live? I don't know. Let's go see. And then if it's not good or it's not exactly what you want, you go find out what that next thing is.
Yeah. So Abe won't admit it, but he's the everything of this thing. This thing wouldn't exist without him, right? I mean, I know that I'm the technology. I know that I bounce things off of him, but the inspiration and the goals and everything is all. If he decides tomorrow that this thing's not on anymore, then I'm cool with it. I'm totally I'm done with it as well. Yeah. I would not start a show or something. It's completely reliant on him for me, but I think that he would tell you that it's also reliant on me. That Man, together is what makes the show.
It's a two-way for real. Cause when you look at it, that Aaron is he's the glue. I mean, like he's the, and that's what I guess that's why it works, is because nobody's trying to get the glory or trying to get, you know what I'm saying, like, yo, this is my thing, this is my idea. You know, it's just two cats coming through to just kick it. You know what I'm saying, and kicking it with speak facts and with speak things that actually help, because at the end of the day, if you ain't doing the podcast for yourself, you ain't gonna last, man. You know what I'm saying? And if it's just to get the numbers, to get the money, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not healthy for nobody out here in the streets. 100.
I think being authentic, right, in yourself is what you're talking about. That if someone is doing a show just for the sake of, you know, like trying to be a news guy or trying to, that doesn't come across as authentic. You listen to some podcasts like the Joe Rogan Show, and there's a guy that's just 100% himself. He never changes. It's always, I shouldn't say never changes, but there's nothing fake about his show. If he wants to curse and swear, he curses and swears. If he wants to go deep into science, he goes deep into science, because that's what he loves. And it's obvious that's what he loves.
Yeah, as soon as you try and force content is when it becomes awkward. And the only times that I personally run into when we're on our show is when we start talking about our Christianity, because, you know, for the first bunch of episodes, we're like, do we talk about it? You know, and I was genuinely concerned. I don't know if Abe was, because he's stronger in his faith than I was, but that was one of the things where it's like, you know, are we going to lose people because we're Christians and all that? Like, and after a while, it's just kind of like, okay, well, there's a way that we can talk about our faith without jamming it towards people. You know, it's okay if they understand we're Christians, because then it frames what we're talking about in a different context. That's why we don't swear on our episodes and all that. But it's really got nothing to do. It's just what makes us us, and people need to understand that Christianity is part of that.
I think too, people need to understand that Christians aren't all like the crazy evangelists. Or not, you know, that not all Christians are the same. Some Christians are just guys that, you know, go have a beer once in a while, and they might cuss once in a while, and you know, that's what our lives is. None of us are perfect. None of us have it all together. I shouldn't say none of us are, probably some people out there that have some of it together. I definitely don't, and that's just part of the gig, right? I fight with my wife. I argue with my kids. I get in trouble at work just like everyone else does. And I think people, you know, and there's a lot of churches out there that do this, where they'll force their view on everybody. You know, look at the Westboro Baptist Church down in the States, where they're, you know, picketing soldiers' funerals. Like, to me, they can do what they want to do, but that seems crazy to me, that you would pick on somebody like that, and that's not what all Christians are.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think that just by being genuinely authentic, then people can understand that we have weaknesses and vulnerabilities. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We were talking about addictions on our earlier episode today. I mean, we are experiencing all the same things. It's just that we have a different reliance on how to get through those things than people who haven't yet, you know, gone through any kind of faith. I mean, you know, it's I don't necessarily like to say specifically, you know, Christianity is what you need. I mean, you know, that's ultimately one of our goals. But if you've got some kind of system in place other than social media to get through your issues, then you're in a much better space than a lot of people out there.
What I realized, because I haven't been a Christian very long, like 10 years. I guess that's a long time. was the group mentality. So what I realized right away at the first church we were at is that when we had issues and we talked about it, all of a sudden we had a bunch of people around us. Like, it wasn't it probably was somewhat intentional with the church. They're like, oh, those people are in trouble right now.
Mhm.
Let's go hang out with them. And I think that's what most people miss in their lives, that they stay at home on social media and they think that's a group of friends.
Mhm.
And it may be, but it also may not be. But when we're sitting face to face like this and we're talking to each other, we 100% believe and feel what that other person is saying. It's one of the reasons why I won't do Skype podcasts with people. And I've had some opportunities for some really cool guests, but I'm like, when you come to Calgary, because I want this face to face. But you get that in church, right? Where you just have this personal relationship with a large group of people where you can share issues or you can help people inside the church. And I think that's for me what because even when I was going, I wasn't a believer. I was just going because I wanted a place that was better for my kids. So not that my drunk party friends are bad people. I didn't want my kids to be drunk party people. So they need to see another view than what that was. And I'm still friends with those guys. I love them all. They're fantastic. But I don't know that they should be helping me raise my kids. So for us, that's what it was. And then I had my aha moment in church where I got it. I understood the whole scheme of things, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about it on air, I guess I'm the same thing. I wouldn't say that people would necessarily go, "Oh, that guy's a Christian," but I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's with us as well. Is that we don't really have any content that's off limits. But I mean, we try and tippy-toe around politics. Sometimes you'll hear us an awful lot talk about Trump, even though, you know what, truly we don't have any effect. Just, it's the theme of the day. So we talk about it. But I mean, maybe if I met the guy, it'd be all right. We'd have a handshake and we'd go and have a huge dinner together, and everything would be all right. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of the stuff that we have is just what's happening out there in the world today, and we just talk about that. Is it from a individually personal level? What do we think about that? And that's what allows it to be authentic, is because we're not making up anything. I personally don't like the guys in the trucks that are swerving around the speed bumps over in Market Square over there. But Abe says it's fun, so it's fun. So I can't judge that. You know what I mean? And so that just creates a really authentic thing, because it's two individuals with different opinions. We ain't never gotten in an argument, and we never will. It's one of those things that we know how to disagree properly, and I think that's really important when you're dealing with people.
That is a real skill set, right? Knowing how to disagree with somebody without making them feel bad or trying to win the argument. There's a way to disagree and learn, as opposed to disagree and win.
Yeah, and there's a couple topics as well that I really tiptoe on, because that's somebody's personal life that I've never experienced. So Abe has his own history. It's up to him to talk to everybody else about it, but I bring it up, but I bring it up very carefully, because I really have no idea how he's been through what he's been. I know what he's been through, but I don't know how he's been through that. Right. So I have to be careful when I approach it. So if you listen to the episodes, you'll hear me say, I kind of predispose and say, it's your call on how you want to answer this, but I'm going to ask anyways.
Yeah.
And it seems to work so far. I haven't gotten in trouble yet with it, but it's way better than just going out and kind of flashing out this one 100. Thing and pointing out, saying, you were somewhere in your life and you're a different individual, because it's different to ask for his permission to talk about things, and it's just very dynamic that way.
I think that's what got me interested in your guys' show, is hearing your background. And I grew up people basically saying that tigers don't change their stripes, right? That they're, if this is what your culture was, it's always going to be what your culture is. And I knew that wasn't true. And it sort of seems like that's what, I don't know if people told you that, but you 100% change your stripes.
Man, you got to grow, you know what I'm saying?
I think that statement is so true, but it's not one that most people believe.
Yeah. I think you got to want to grow too, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of opportunities to grow. There's a lot of opportunities to embrace different things. You know what I'm saying? If you're closed in a mentality, then and you don't experience or open up yourself to certain ways or things that are going out there, you're always going to be thinking that way. And I think that you got to want to grow and search things out for real.
What I like to do is measure my life. So in business, they say if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I like to measure what's going on and sit down and when I meditate or when I pray and just go, is this working? So when I deal with someone at work or if I have an issue with my kids and it doesn't go so well, I measure it out. Like if it's not working, I'm going to do it. I had a discussion with a pastor from my past where they were talking about how important it was to spank kids. And I'm like, I tried it. It didn't work. I'm not doing it anymore. I think I spanked my son like 2 times, maybe 3 times, and I didn't get the change I wanted. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to hit the kid anymore.
It wasn't hard enough.
I don't know. He's downstairs.
That's not from me, people. That's not from me.
We can go downstairs and ask him. Yeah. But that's true in everywhere in our life. So if something's not working, why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? Yeah.
If you wake up every morning miserable and you're I don't know, being promiscuous or you're doing drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, and you're waking up not feeling good, like, well, that's a pretty good telltale sign that you shouldn't be doing it anymore. That's your body going, hey, this sucks. Please don't do it anymore. But not enough people think or want to do that, right?
I think we've talked about this. Is that people are? I don't like to claim overall that people are lazy, but we're just seeing a big shift into whatever's convenient and quicker for things to get done. And then people just aren't contributing the right amount of time into making sure that people are being healthy around them, and they're not putting enough investment into those people. Abe spends a lot of time outside of his regular 9 to 5, mentoring kids and all that, and it goes unseen and unpraised, which is fine. He's not looking for praise on it. But he's doing things out there that just seeing him on the street, especially in his hood, he looks like a thug, and you sit there and think he's up to no good. Just checking out your Rolex. If those are even cool anymore. Yeah. Do they even like Rolexes anymore?
Oh, yeah, Rolexes are still out there.
Still out there?
Oh, yeah. Man.
So what about Apple Watches? Would you steal that instead?
No, I don't take no Apple Watch.
Yeah, see, it's still a Rolex.
You know what I'm saying?
The OG. It's still the OG in there.
I put some diamonds in that thing.
That's what, there you go.
Those
gold
put some bling on it?
Yeah.
Signed by the Kardashians. But you know what I mean, and then that's one of the things that I find most fascinating is because with Abe, every single day is anti-judgment. He has to go out there and put on a show to not be judged, whereas you and I, for the most part, are just used to walking around town and we don't have to worry about it. But that's white privilege in action right there, and I don't mind saying it that way.
Yeah.
But you hear some of the things that this guy has to go through every day, and you're just kind of like, man, I'm sorry. Not necessarily on behalf of me and my people, but just from what has happened.
Right.
And once you can expose that and start talking about it and be comfortable about it, I mean, it took me the longest time to say black on the radio. It was just this thing because you're sitting and hanging around and you see what's happening, but then the more you understand about it, you're just kind of like, holy man, that word is so heavy in certain contexts. And it's thanks to Abe where I've actually been able to come out and actually have just real dialogue about it.
Yeah.
Because it's that hesitation and buying into the whole, I don't know if we should talk about it, is what's causing the problem, is creating that separation because we're not having the open discussion about why am I uncomfortable talking about things that are black.
Right.
Black cats, superstition things, and I was still like, oh man,
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that it's about understanding, but again, that's where his part of it is so huge because he could just as easily be one of the angry guys that we see on TV that are causing the trouble, but he has a so different approach about it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have a friend here in town who's adopted. He's adopted 4 kids: Caucasian, an East Indian girl, and then 2 black boys. And he messaged me. I teach self-defense, and he said, "Can you teach my boy self-defense?" I said, "Well, why?" He says, "The amount of racism in this town is outrageous." And I'm like, "Really?" And of course, this is the white privilege side, right? We don't see it that way. None of my friends use derogatory terms or say, "Oh, I'm not going to hang out with that guy." That doesn't happen. Yeah. But do you see that here in Airdrie?
Yeah, it's huge out here in the streets, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just like growing up the way I grew up, you just kind of shrug your shoulders at it. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't want to spend any energy and time in that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It's life, And then if some people want to learn and they'll see, like, you know what, we're not that different. You know what I'm saying? And we just keep on moving like that.
Seems like a hard uproad battle to be fight or hate against hate. Like there's people that are going to hate for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And why would you want to combat that with hate?
Right, exactly. You can't do that, you know what I'm saying? You just got to love the hate out of a person, you know what I'm saying?
I grew up in Surrey, BC, and when I was out there, it was.
Phonehood.
It's funny. I met a girl while I was doing a quote for my regular job, and she's, "Oh, where are you originally from?" I said, "Surrey, but I won't rob you. I promise."
Yeah. Reputation.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, when I went to Surrey, we went to Frank Hurt Senior Secondary, and when I started there was maybe 5% diversity. Like it was all white kids. And by the time I was in grade 10, it was probably 60 or 70% East Indian kids. And we had no idea.
But yeah, there was a minority still.
They were treated like a minority.
Exactly.
For
Exactly.
sure, yeah. And I talk about this on another episode, but it was not an inherent hate for the East Indian kids, although we treated them that way. We just didn't know them.
Yeah.
Right? And they didn't know us. They were in a brand new country around brand new cultures. They weren't very comfortable. We weren't very comfortable. And then all of a sudden I think some people take that and just go, oh, that's the way they all are. And then I 100% did at that time, just believed it. And then as you get to know them, as you get to, work with them and go to school with them and all that, and you're like, oh, well, you're just a dude like I am.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard unless you're in a family that has that diversity already, where my family didn't have black friends or East Indian friends, or for that matter, even any other white culture. It was just basically, Surrey white people. That's all that they hung out with. So I didn't know anything else. And you look at it now and you go, oh, well, that was being silly. I didn't need to be angry or I should have just asked more questions. Yeah.
And you can't hate nobody for not knowing, right? You get mad at people when they know better, but they choose not to do good. You know what I'm saying? Then that's kind of upsetting. But if somebody don't know nothing, you ain't exposed to it, then you struggle, and you teach the people. You know what I'm saying? That's you gotta be the better person. And this is where some of us have to work 10 times better. I mean, more than the next person, because you want to show that we ain't all the way that you think or the way that people are portrayed in the movies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're actually contributing positively in society and doing good things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's get back to goals a little bit, because I have and everyone on my show has heard this lots, but I have a long-term goal of being a healthy, fit grandfather. So that means working on it now. Do you guys have any of those like life goals that you're working on, or you're always in the back of your mind?
Are you talking personal or for the show, or
for personal? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think mine's too different from yours overall. Is that I just want to see my boys grow up healthy and hopefully that they can turn around and contribute back to society in some way or form. I want them to go against the grain of just being selfish and kind of fight this perception that the millennials are just entitled and all that. I think there's just a big misunderstanding there on what we used to do and what they are today. And I think that our generation of kids, so the ones that are kind of in the elementary schools these days, are going to be the ones that actually flip this world on its head. And the problem is that we might not leave much for them to succeed. We might end up in some kind of dystopian future by then, which is kind of grim. But nonetheless, I want them to succeed even in that environment, so just teach them on how to understand who to trust, who not to trust, and those that you do, make those better people.
Yeah. I can say what I appreciate about you and your boys, because I see you guys at church all the time and out in public. You are super affectionate with your kids.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you don't see that with a lot of dads out there. And I feel that I'm the same way. Like I'm always touching, hugging, kissing my kids. I just can't get enough of it. I truly, truly want to be around them as much as possible. And I think if parents took a little bit more of that thought process, don't be shy about, grabbing your kid in public. Although sometimes my 14-year-old girl is like, Dad, come on.
A lot of that, though, is that most people these days assume that because they're busting their butt out there working and making 6 figures a year, that is the affection that they're showing. But kids don't see that, so you need to spend the time and maybe worry less about the financial contribution to it and spend the time with them. That is the only advice that I can give, is that I could be out there working 8 days a week and pay for everything that my kids ever want, but I would not have what you see out there with them. My oldest is 14, and we're still hanging out on Friday mornings, going for hot chocolate before school's on Friday.
Nice.
That kind of thing. And I tell you, what he's turning into is like, he's not a combination of me or my wife anymore. Like he is his own individual, and it's amazing because I can sit there and say that's not me and that's not her. So the only thing it must be is the time. You know, because I'm not that good. You know, like that's just amazing to see.
It's exciting when your 14-year-old still wants to hang out with you. My daughter says, "Hey, can we go shopping?" And
she's using you. You didn't see that.
She's sneaky.
Hold on a second here.
But to get to spend time with her, she wants to spend time. She has to ask her grandma and her mom. Oh, you need the $150 jacket instead of okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's important that the generation of kids underneath us grow up with the love in their heart, that they know that they're appreciated and loved, and that they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
So, what are your long-term goals?
My long-term goal? Oh man, I can't think right now, man. You know,
this is Abe's third podcast today, so they stole most of the words from him.
No, I mean, I guess managing time. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the best things that I would want to make sure that I do better at. That's my long-term goal, is to spend quality time and doing things. Yeah. What am I saying, man?
I you know, it's funny because I was gonna say I want to speak for you, man. So Abe wants to make the world a better place in the long goal. And the reason why he can't articulate that long term is because it's a day over day thing. He has to work every day to make that happen, and then one day he'll turn around and it'll be a better place. Yeah. But you can't articulate that means that in 5 years from now he's going to be mentoring 20 kids instead of 5 kids. Like you cannot.
There's no way to measure that.
You can't quantify this. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that what I learned from this man is, how do I make the world a better place over time? But take a look at it day over day and focus on today's goal, which is making everybody around me better. And I only got that from him. I saw that on your Instagram conversations with Abe. You have like your little notes from your iPhone where you put in. Oh yeah, see, I told you that word. See, dog, that's the second person. It's a big deal. I'm telling you, that is probably the most important thing a human being can do, is write down what they want. For real. For their day, right? So what are some of the ones you had in there?
Man, I don't even know, man. I'll tell you what. Like I got a lot of stuff that come straight from the dawn. Like, you know, in the rap industry, we call it freestyling. It's stuff that just comes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then you just start spitting it real quick. You know, so I got a lot of those things because I like spending time with my thoughts a lot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So there's so much stuff that I realized that you know what, this kid, you're smart. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? I think I'm smart in that way, because then knowing that there is so much stuff that you can bring out in the quietness of your mind. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then bringing that stuff out on paper, because if you're not if you don't spend time with yourself and just digging your brain to see what it is that's in your brain, then you're always going to take what Aaron says or what the next person says or what somebody else says. You know what I'm saying? But then when you spend time and understand that you're smart enough to bring out things that can be appreciated by people, then you're getting somewhere.
Right. So the writing would be like your form of meditation or prayer, or it's
just a way of me bringing out my thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's meditation or not.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that with you, Abe's kind of so spontaneous that you can't script his thoughts. You can't make it, and that's probably one of the reasons why we walk in as cold as we do, is because for us to sit there and say, okay, today we're going to talk about homeless youth or something, it'll go off the rails because it's not spontaneous. And you'll find that in a lot of our episodes, we start with kind of a general idea. By the end of it, we're 650 degrees in the direction. Man, we've gone around so many times, and that's the thing, and that's why Abe doesn't recall things either, because it's so instant, so spontaneous, and so right now that's the only time that it was relevant. Any other time, if you spit out some of those things in the middle of dinner or something, people will be like, what are you talking about? It only matters right then and there, and that's why this is kind of like a really good podcast for us, is because we're both just very spontaneous. It's only good when we say it right then and there.
Right. Word.
It's funny, I had a lady on the show that brought that up to me. She, Jody, who we'll have back again, but I was saying that growing up, not many people told me anything that was valuable. Like, hey, that's a bad attitude, or hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And I kind of, for a while, got mad at all those people, even Christian people that I knew, saying, hey, why wouldn't you say something? She goes, well, would you have believed it? I'm like, maybe not. right? Probably not even maybe. I know I wouldn't have at that time. If someone had told me that, God loves you and he doesn't want you to do that, up yours. It's 100% where I would have been. But eventually it came around and I got it. And so that spontaneousness, when you see something in somebody and you can just say it to them right then, like, you're a good person. I know you are, or whatever it is you see in them, and saying that, there's a lot of value in that for sure.
Absolutely. And everything that you say, when you say it in love, it makes a difference, because you could see something good in somebody and you say it and they won't believe you because of the way you're saying it and where it's coming from. A lot of people have been taken advantage of, to the point where they don't believe anything that comes out from nobody.
Yeah.
But then when you speak about something and you speak it out of love, it holds more weight than somebody who's just spitting it. No, it don't matter if they as influential as whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? But if you say something out of love and you're saying from a good place, it's always going to come out right.
Yeah. I want to know more about what you do with the youth. I really firmly believe that Christians need to be, I don't want to say less Christian, but they need to be a little bit more worldly when they're talking to people, to make them understand. Like, they should know that we're Christian, but they should also know that we're somewhat normal people as well. I had a ministry where I taught self-defense, and I had lots of people come to me looking for advice, and they were going through troubles in their marriage or whatever, and they came to me because I was a Christian, but what I was doing wasn't Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what are you doing with these youth just what are you doing?
Man, I'm just out here trying to do my thing. So here's the thing. When it comes to how I see that works for me is being myself 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because people they're going to tell if you're fake or not. If you're trying to do something just for trying to do it, we will see it in the streets and people will expose you. But if you're real, and you're like, again, it goes back to the heart. If your heart is straight and you want to do something, it don't matter how many mistakes you make, they're gonna come for you. They're gonna come and love on you, because it's seen that everything is coming from a good place. But how I do my thing is just basically meeting people where they at, you know what I'm saying, and just walking with them from the standpoint. And one thing that I've come to understand is that if you're a Christian, there are people that are supposed to be right in the church, meaning that their gifts will never extend to the world, because if they come to the world, they will be offensive to the world.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So they are here to edify the body of Christ, these people that are in the church.
Yeah.
And then there are those that will go cross borders, so to speak. They can be in the church and also out here effecting change in people's lives.
Yeah.
You feel me? So you just got to find who you is and not try to step bounds and try to reach out to people that you can't reach out to, because I know that there's certain things that I do or that I say that would not be accepted in certain circles. So when I'm in those circles right there, I am a different kind of cat.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So you just got to find out who you is and where you're supposed to be at, and then that will work. You know what I'm saying? It will work 100%.
Yeah, that's a way better way of describing it. That's exactly how I feel. Like, there's a way that we can go out there and be Christians and not try to pound it down people's throats and telling them
like
wrong.
If you're at work, you're not, like, a lot of companies don't allow you to talk about your Christianity, right? So then you also take that approach in certain relationships.
Yeah,
you feel what I'm saying? It's not everybody that's at that place where they can't accept what you're saying. So then you have to understand that, like, with this group of people, this is what it is that they want to hear. This is what it is that I can't get away with.
Yeah.
And then this other group, I can freely speak about what it is that I believe in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what we want to do at the end of the day is lead people to Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And which avenue or whichever way you go through to do it, it's not scripted.
Yeah.
That's where it is that it becomes personal. How it is that you're going. Go ahead.
And you can be 100% honest in both groups.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you can be in a secular group and not have to hide anything. When someone comes to you, I know when I had a guy going through divorce, when I was running the Summit, and he just wanted to bash on his wife, and I know from a scriptural point what my job is as a husband is that I'm supposed to love and honor my wife and, make her feel good. And that's my job. And I'm like, are you doing that for your wife? And he's like, well, I'm like, that's not the point. It's just not the point. The point is, what are you doing? You have I have zero control over my wife. Yeah. And I shouldn't have control over my wife. But I sort of do if I'm being a good husband. I get a lot more control when I'm the best husband I can be. So you can have this honest conversation with people even outside the church. Maybe only when they're in need. I don't know.
Well, pride has a lot to do with that as well. Is that everybody these days is relative? Not everybody. I'm sorry, everybody. Some people these days are self-centered. So it's just a pride thing. Is that you don't want to admit, not you in particular, that because Christianity worked for me, that it might work for you, because then it proves that you might have been doing something wrong, air quote, this whole time, right? And then everybody has so much pride that they like to think that everything up until this point was the right course, so it's very hard to change course. And that's where that pride thing comes in, is that are you humble enough to sit there and look and talk to somebody and go, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
It's easier when you're up to, 8 years old, but after that you're independent enough where I live my life the way that I want to, and my parents told me I could be anything I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's learning how to have that humility to just take advice, and if you're willing to listen, then you're making the world a better place around you.
100%. Yeah. I used to listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, because he's about goal setting and getting ahead and all that kind of thing. One of the things that he said, a lot of stuff that revolves around business also works in your personal life. So he says, with your business, if you don't know what the end result is, what happens on the last day of your business? Is it being sold? Is it being given to your kids? Are you just shutting it down because you've made it? Whatever it is, you have to know what that end goal is. And so my end goal of my life was to be a healthy, fit grandfather, so that I can support my kids. So, that involves my finances, that involves, my overall health of my body, being fit, being all that kind of stuff. So I think about the end all the time, where I want to be and what I want to do. So what does the end look like for you guys? Like when you're 65 years old, not that I hope that 65 is the end, but those last twilight years, what do those look like for you guys?
Well, I mean, if I'm already sick and in the hospital or something like that, as long as my family's around me, it means that I influence them in such a way that they care back still. A lot of times we're finding seniors that are all alone in their last 20 years of life because somebody's popped them into a house. They stop by, once a month or, once a year. But those months are like years to them, because when you're alone, every second is a day. So as long as my family is still having something to do with me by that time, then I know that I've at least succeeded in influencing them in a positive way, that they want to spend time with me, even in my last minutes. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like if you can't encourage or positively affect your family, then you failed. You know what I'm saying? So I think that I'm on the same wavelength right there.
Yeah, I don't want to take the Christianity out of it there. I mean, ultimately, we want at our end days to know that we're in touch with God and that's where we're heading. Yeah. But if I've done everything right, my family being close to me will validate that everything's right, because if I'm not walking in a godly fashion, then they won't want to spend time with me. So that's I just didn't want to take away from the point that all of us ultimately want God to smile on us at our end days.
Yeah, but sitting at the right hand.
Yeah, but walking proper. Yeah. Those are the indicators that you get. You don't have to wait until He's going through your resume at the end of the day to point out things. You got to sell yourself to God, saying, "But I did this." Your lifestyle will show whether or not you're deserving of that. And even if you're a non-believer, is that still not what you want at the end of the day? Is for people to be around you in your last minutes. I mean, I think that's a great goal for Christians and non.
I hope people want that's I just don't think enough people think about it and plan. Like I have mine so detailed out. I picture, so I tell people all the time, I'm going to end up in Belize in a dirt floor grass hut, picking fruit and fishing all day. That's kind of my end, right? And fly up and visit my grandkids every other week, and or bring them down, whatever the situation is. But that's where I see myself, is just in a tropical paradise in a hammock eating fruit, going out fishing or whatever. But I think so many people, when they're having relationships right now, they're not thinking, what is this going to be like in 15 years or 20 years or 30 years, right? You have to think about that when you're married, when you have kids. Like, what am I doing right now that's going to affect them when they're 20,
Yeah.
when they're 30, when they're 40, when they're dads, when
Yeah.
they're grandparents?
Yeah, that's where a lot of that purchase of just stuff these days
Mhm.
gets in the way of people's goals, because they see success as having the BMW and all this kind of stuff. But does that purchase take away from what you're contributing to your family's overall well-being? You know, I drive an old Accord of 2002 or something like that. I mean, I'd love to have. I had to. My wife bought me the $20 seat thing from Costco so that I can have heated seats. Because it's much cheaper than a new
Another
car. Yeah, you know what I mean. But that's the thing, is that I'd still rather be driving that thing to my death instead of looking like I'm successful and setting up my kids for goals that are not necessarily unrealistic, but just it doesn't fit into the big picture of things to be
Right.
driving this fancy car and stuff. Is not a reasonable goal because it has nothing to do with it.
And not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Like if you want to have a BMW and it fits
Yep.
your budget and it's safer for your,
Yep.
by all means,
Yep.
have at her. But you can't be just goal. Like
That's
it
right.
has to be people orientated, not stuff
That's
orientated.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. I have a question that I've been asking people lately. What is if you could script out what your life should be like, or what your best life would be
Mhm.
like, what would that be? Like, obviously, no one wants to have to work for a living, right? So finances have to be part of it. The type of house that you live in has to be part of it. The people around of you has to be part of it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that all that has to in that way.
Yeah.
The problem is that we've created it. That's part of it. Is that, sure, I'd like to have a house. Does it have to be the house that I'm in? Not necessarily. I mean, I can love my kids just as much in a smaller house, in a bigger house, anything like that. And that's kind of the thing, is that I just want to make sure that I'm making them a better person than I ever was and ever will be, and that in turn that they're going to make the world a better place. And that's it. Is that I know I can do that under any environment. I understand that there's people saying, well, if you're in Syria right now, it'll be a lot harder. And you're kind of like, you know what? My house just might have gotten blown up and all that, but I still have my family. I still have these essentials, and we're just looking for food today. But I mean, the Lord will provide,
Yeah.
if you have belief. And there are some people that have come from some really bad situations compared to our kind of soft North American upbringing that are still way more successful and way better people than I don't even know that I'll ever attain.
Right.
And they did it without anything that I have of these regular comforts that I was born into. So I don't see the stuff as being a success in that. It's how do I make sure that I can still make the kids the best that I can through whatever adversity that we're running into? Because ultimately, you've already said it, is everything's just stuff.
Right.
So if I can find a way to succeed and make my kids better and that, then it doesn't matter that way.
Right.
So.
It's funny, I don't know if you guys know or not, there's the lottery got up to $60 million in Canada. We don't normally gamble or buy, but we're like, $60 million, let's go spend $20 and see. And so the draw was last night. I didn't win, by the way. Someone else did. But I was talking to my wife. We were just waiting on my daughter to get out of youth. And I was like, so if we win the $60 million, what are we going to do? Like, if you don't plan for what you're going to do in the future, you're never going to get that stuff. So she's like, well, I think we'd renovate the house a little bit and I might upgrade my truck. And I'm like, it's $60 million, lady. But she loves her life. She loves our house. She's like, I don't want to get another house. Because right away, I'm like, I'm going to go buy an acreage. I'm going to build a big house. And I'm going to, right? And she goes, no, I don't. I like it here right now. I'm like, okay. We'll renovate the house. We'll do, and we have plans to do that anyway.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that money does not take away from the job you have. I would still work because my job at work is not complete yet. There are still people that need reach there.
Right.
And by me showing up and still being humble and being the guy that I am, them knowing that I'm a Christian at work is only going to help benefit and bring them and understand. But as soon as I take that $60 million and bail, then now I'm not a Christian anymore in their minds, or at least I'm the typical Christian because I've now just sorry,
I'm all good now.
I'm all good. And so that takes away from that kind of goal underneath, is that I need to find a way and make sure that even if I have what the apostles had, which is just the sandals on my feet, that I'm still able to go out there and disciple and be with people, and money shouldn't influence that either way.
Yeah,
So
that's why I love doing this show. I get corrected all the time. when I called it, I want to know is because I really want to know what other people think and how they develop their lives, and it gets me to a better place in my life. I'm still going to police right now.
yeah, no, they need Christ too. So build a church.
100.
There you
Yeah.
go. $60 million, you could build a pretty nice church in Belize.
Right,
Yeah. I'd have to hire a pastor though. I don't think I've got that.
You
gene
do,
inside
you
of
do.
me.
Man, see, where's your goals, man? You have it in you.
There you go.
It's, everybody
Yeah.
needs the message a different way,
Yes.
and we're all
Yeah.
put here to give it a different way.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
so you got it. You
Beautiful.
know, just admit it to yourself, and you'll be all right.
100.
I had a pastor say that. She's like, "Oh, why don't you start and get up?" One, this is going to sound silly considering what we do now, but I'm afraid I have stage fright. So being on a stage in front of more than like 10 or 15 people, I start like severely panicking.
Nice.
Well, not really.
So, I'm just thinking that when we get together for Christmas, we'll do charades, and I'll find that limit of how many people when you're standing up there doing.
Yeah. I'm always in the audience, like, don't call me up, don't call me up, don't call me up. Yeah, it's funny because I know we have lots of listeners on here, and I have no panic talking to you guys.
Yeah.
But when I can see all the faces,
Yeah.
Just get them to bring up the lights so that you just can't see it.
There
That's
you
true,
go.
yeah.
Black them out.
Abe didn't get to say what if you won 60 million, what you'd be up to.
If I want 60
yeah.
million,
Yeah, I buy you a
Man.
Rolex so you don't have to.
man, I'll get a Maybach. I'll get a
What's
driver.
a Maybach?
It's a maid. You used to have a maid, and you're gonna get her back. Maybach.
Get my maid
You're
back.
gonna get your maid back. I didn't know this about it.
Oh.
It's a car.
I'll get the one with no roof on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're paying money for it. Why wouldn't you get a roof?
I don't because I'll be living in probably in Florida. No, Florida is got
They got alligators. And
they got
crap
stuff
in
going
They
on
got
in
too
Florida,
many
man.
alligators in
They got
Florida.
they
and
got that kind of
fentanyl.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah,
but
but
BC is getting crazy though.
But he'd be so
Yes.
rich he'd buy the naloxone with self-medicate.
We're up, we're down. We're up, we're down.
$60 million,
Yeah.
man. My brain
I'm
can't.
sorry, you would build your youth center. That you
I
keep
would
talking about.
definitely
You-
build
I
a
don't know
youth
where
center.
that would look because at 60 million you'd be able to put it wherever you want.
But you know what? The danger with having so much money like that is
Yeah,
that
I
you're
know.
going to end up doing things that are unnecessary, say, with
That's
the
right.
youth and all
Yeah,
of that
but
stuff.
they would have the best sound and light system.
100, 100.
They
you know
all
what
have
I'm saying?
Rolexes.
Full video studio, audio studio, there'd be everything.
Yeah, you'd run out of money real quick.
Yeah. True.
All right, so you'd have a Maybach, but what about personally?
I gotta know what a Maybach is.
Oh,
yeah,
Maybach
go
is-
ahead and Google it up.
Google that thing, man. That's
Yeah.
a really nice ride. So, 60 million. I don't know, man. I've never thought about that. Like, what would I do?
You know God won't give you 60 million unless you have a plan for it, right?
Really now?
Really now.
I think there's 10 million people who got plans and ain't nobody got none yet.
That could be true too.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I just learned about Abe overall is that again that is a goal that's even tomorrow away, you know,
Yeah,
and so unless it happens today, Abe ain't thinking about it, and I'm sorry to speak so much.
It's
for you
it's
today,
real though,
Abe,
for real.
But give it to him and then let him decide what to
100.
do with it.
Yeah.
But don't ask him on what he's gonna do with it because he doesn't plan that way. It's not a today. It's if I got 60 million today, okay, then I can do 10 million over into this shelter over here,
100.
5 over here. You know, but if he takes the lump sum and it's only 27.5 million. But he's already excited about spending 60. Then it changes the plan.
Everything,
So he
exactly.
needs to know what's in front of him
100.
today for it. And again, I apologize for speaking.
You're speaking facts, bro.
so-
100.
That is a sweet ride, by the way. You guys are talking. I'd buy one of those.
Would you buy the one with the roof?
I'd buy the one. We live in Canada. You can't have a car without a roof. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I got a similar plan. My daughter loves acting,
Mm.
and there was a company here in town called Torchlight Theater.
Yeah.
The founder's been on and talked about it a little bit, but they need space to have a theater. I love podcasting so much. I would set up a podcast studio. I love
Mhm.
martial arts, so I've got my tiny little gym in the basement, but I'd like about a 2,000 square foot gym.
Mhm.
And then would be a youth center attached to it, a pool table, foosball, like all the fun stuff. And it would just be a a city center
Mhm.
for whatever people wanted to do. If you had $60 million, spend $2.5 million putting a building up, another $1 million in equipment, you still got a bucket load of cash to do whatever you want and just
Absolutely.
let people use the
Yeah,
building.
and that's the thing though is that I like to think of the sustainability side of things though, because I mean operationally that thing will cost you $1 million a year. So I mean, unless that plan's going to work for 25 years kind of thing, and then you get your corporate sponsorships and stuff along the way,
Yeah.
even that starts to become kind of a
real
large
job.
thing, because now you're only at 30 million because you're making that thing work for 25 years. So it starts cutting into maybe some of your personal goals and some of the other things you wanted to. So, like, I agree with you that we should be doing things like that. But the problem with some of the foundations is that they don't think so far ahead. They don't think about
Right.
operations, but just have 2 or 3 guys helping out, and then equipment and all those utilities and all that kind of stuff. And it just becomes really expensive to operate one of those things. So, and there's only, you get volunteer burnout and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and then now suddenly you're the one that's doing it, even though you're just the founder of it. And there's a big
You're
difference
burning
there.
people out,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you're burning yourself out, so you can't even enjoy your other 15 million that you have left over. Like it's a real double-edged sword when you're looking at that thing. And a lot of people are, I'd buy my mom's house for them and I do this kind of stuff. And you're like, you're going to be poor, even though it's 60 million, you're going to be poor within 5 years, not intentionally. You just didn't see it.
You see that with fighters, rappers, singers, actors. They get these bucket loads of money, and then all of a sudden they got nothing.
Yeah.
They're broke. That $60 million doesn't go where it used to go, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and what is it? Jay-Z and Beyonce are probably the ones that are like really knowing how to manage it, and they're out there and recontributing back. I just about said Kanye and Beyonce. You would have smacked me. I saw it. I was just, whoa, Jay. But I mean, that's where you see the ones that are doing it smart, and then the other ones are, sitting in jail or whatever right now because they just have that attitude and that, where you've been brought up by image-based society.
Yeah.
And you just, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to, do crayons in my hair and all that stuff, and I'm going to end up in jail because I don't know how to manage not only my money but my time and my life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I think the scripture was that why would God trust you with a lot of money if you can't even manage a little bit of money, right? And so having good management skills, and I believe that's how we get growth in our lives, is to be really good at the stuff that you got, and then you're going to get something else, and then you're going to get something else, and you just manage everything, whether it's your kids, your wife, your relationships, your house, your finances, your time. It's important that we're always managing those to the best of our ability.
For real. Yeah.
And that's one of the things too that from a semi-judgmental point of view, I sit there and look at it and be like, the reason why I haven't won 60 million yet is I'm ready, but my wife's not ready yet. You know what I mean? Is that you really do, with the people around you, have to be ready collectively, because maybe that's true. Is that if I got the money and maybe Abe's not ready for his million of that, because I would give that to him. Oh, now it's on radio. But you know what I mean? Is that so then none of us will benefit from it because he's not ready for that. Maybe he's never ready, which means we will never collectively win. If you know what I mean. And that's the thing, is that if our family is unprepared for that as well, it's not just me individually, because again, I can only influence certain things that my spouse does. Then we're still not ready. Because her being ready is part of my being ready.
Right.
And that's one thing to take a look at. So again, you're right that God will provide, but I don't think any of us are ever in that position, especially for a $60 million hit, and especially as men of Christ, to manage that properly. How do you handle something like that?
And we probably have the best opportunity with the amount of people that we have around us, right? With our pastors, our friends. And we have this great group of mentors and people that will hold us accountable all the time for the things we say, the things we do. And if we're open to listening, we have that ability.
Yeah, Pastor Corey's ready for us to win 60 million. That's
he is. I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but to what you were saying is our job, and I don't mean in it's a chauvinistic way, but we really have to be the leaders of our family and our community, right? And we have to always be working towards that. And I think that's where divorce and unsettled relationships come in, is when men don't do that. They don't stand up and be the leader.
Men get selfish and entitled in just a different way, you know, and it's because of that a lot of times, and then we won't admit that we're the ones that are wrong as well. My wife and I went through a couple of different things throughout our time together, and it totally was me.
Yeah.
You don't see it at the time, and you barely even ever admit it, even after the fact. Kind of thing. You'll always find a way to slight it or lighten it up.
Yeah.
But we need to be way better men in this world, not just to our spouses. And we need to be the spiritual leaders. We need to take control, not in the way that you think of, domination,
Right.
kind of thing. But I mean, we need to set an example for ourselves, because we need to be that strength and that foundation.
Yeah.
So that's why we start seeing all these things, because a guy can't just for a second be like, okay, no, you're right.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate.
And not that we're never right, but I think the question that I ask myself when things get unsettled in my house right away, I go, okay, what am I not doing right? Or what am I doing wrong? Or what do I need to change?
Yep.
And as soon as I do that and I sit down and talk, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, guys. That this is not a good place to be. What do you guys need from me? All of a sudden, everything settles down.
We can bring all that together in the conversation. But as soon as we get all angry or do whatever our guy thing is, caveman style, start
because
to
I told you so,
and pulling
right?
them by their hair. And that's the thing is that that is that male-driven society that you're talking about. I mean, I'm glad that the conversations are happening these days about the whole male-dominated industries and all that kind of stuff. Where equality has been talked about this whole time. But there is a foundational root that we need to be the leaders, not because it's our in us that people expect us to, but because that's what we need to be.
Right.
It's just simple. It's nothing outside of it. That's what we need to be. Is we need to be a foundational rock for everything around us. So I want to be the foundational rock for you two dudes, which in that turn will help you be foundational rocks for the rest of your family.
That's right.
Jordan
Peterson is a psychologist, and I would call him a Christian, although I don't know that he would call himself a Christian. But he's got this kind of golden rule that first you do what's right for you. But not only right for you, it's got to be right for you and your family and your community and the world. So that's a good decision. But not only right for all those people, it's got to be right now, and in 5 years, and in 10 years, and in 20 years. And that hit me so hard that I started going backwards, which is the wrong thing to do. And I just started looking at all the decisions I made. I'm like, oh, that wasn't even good for me. So how could it be good for anybody else? And now I stopped the backpedaling and beating myself up and just go, okay, now when I got a decision to make, I'm going to base it on that.
Yeah.
If I say this to my wife, is it going to be good for me? Okay, it's not good for me. This isn't going to turn out well. Find another way to say this so that it's good for me and it's good for my wife and my kids and everybody else. Yeah. And that was a game changer for me as a person, where I could really view things from outside of myself and how am I affecting everyone else, right? Like it's like the butterfly wings on the pond. It's going to go out everywhere. So you have to be very conscious of the words coming out of your mouth and the things that you do. And so listening to what Peterson has to say, and there's quite a few other psychologists that I listen to that are on this same boat, that you can just give away all your time and all your money and all your efforts, but that's not good for you. And so it's not going to be good for those other people, maybe short term or maybe short lived, but you first have to take care of yourself, right? Make sure that you're getting rest. Make sure that you're taking care of your finances. Make sure that your future is somewhat secured in all those different areas, and then go do that for everybody else.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing is that, my recommendation for you would be to make sure that you get the 4-door Maybach so you can drive around the kids and stuff, and then that way it's a benefit to everybody other than yourself.
Do they make it in a van like those?
Yeah, you got a minivan.
No, they got that, you know what I'm saying? Oh, no, man, you know what I'm saying? It's just
a Maybach van.
Yeah, but see, it's very hard, though, in today's society to have that mentality of making sure that everything benefits around you, because almost every purchase I make today, I don't sit there and buy my latte in the morning and sit there and say this is going to benefit my wife. In fact, it doesn't at all, because I get fatter, I have sugar intolerance, like I'm just an overall more negative person. But I do it because I'm selfish at the moment. So if I were to apply that to everything, my goodness, I mean, I wish that I could personally, but every decision that I make, unfortunately, doesn't reflect on everybody else around me, especially in the work environment. At home, it's a little bit different. I don't just sit there and, make food. If my wife is lactose intolerant, and just be Alfredo again tonight there, But I wish that a lot more people thought about their actions with the people around them. So,
and I don't think we'll ever be perfect at it, right? No. It's just like our walk with God, that there's an expectation that we're moving towards being more Jesus-like. But it's going to take us 250 years to get there, and we only got, if we're living life well, 100 years to do it.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to be working towards bettering ourselves every single time. And maybe this Jordan Peterson thing, 10 years down the road, we go like, oh, that was silly, now I found something better, and we do something better.
We gotta understand, because I was going to point that out too, that knowledge and revelation is always progressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how I think right now might not necessarily be how I think 10 years from now, but it worked today though. You know what I'm saying? It ain't affect nobody negatively, but it worked today.
Right.
So 10 years down the line, it might not be the wisest thing, but still, you know what I'm saying? It is progressive. So whatever it is that I'm doing right now, if it's working, it's gonna work. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go after it. But then again, as I grow older, I'm gonna implement different things too.
Yeah. There takes. Elon Musk had said that our bandwidth for our brain is just not very good. He's trying to find a way to implement more knowledge into our brain faster. So he's trying to connect the two better. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but there's a revelation in that, is that will take us years to figure this stuff out and to be good at it. And by the time you're a really, really good dad, you're probably already going to be a grandfather. Right? Like it's a long road.
Yeah. The funny thing with Elon is, at least if he could think faster, it's going to be a benefit to people around him.
Yeah.
The general society, if they could think faster, is just watching cat videos on YouTube faster. It's really no benefit.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is
true.
that there's a different context here, is that is a thinker. That guy right there is that he's not going to waste his time, that if he could think faster on useless stuff, it's going to be a benefit to everybody as a whole. But the vast majority of people is, I don't need to think any faster than I already do. I don't need to listen to more crap news out there that's just polluting my brain and thoughts and all that kind of stuff, So that's the thing, is that I do think that he should be evolving that kind of thing, because from him, on a health thing, I mean, could you imagine what we could do with brain disabled children and all that kind of stuff with that kind of technology?
Yeah.
Right. So you think of the health and the healing from that, but then there's a lot of other people that'll just be able to spew out a whole bunch of useless CNN type stuff a lot faster, and I don't know if that's a benefit for everybody.
There goes our CNN sponsorship.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Hey man, if you're taking sponsorship money for your podcast, I shouldn't be here.
I think you nailed it on the head there. It is there are some people like, I want to know, right? This is what I'm about. And if I just sit and plug into a computer, I don't get the friendships and the relationships that I get now. Although, if it could be the Matrix and I could be a black belt in jiu-jitsu tomorrow, I'm in 100%. I want to be a black belt in everything. If I can learn to fly a helicopter by sitting in a chair for 6 hours and just then plugging the information, I'm in 100%.
And that's the thing, though, is unfortunately, I don't think that we have yet the way to plug in and learn compassion. I don't think that's something that we can buy at Walmart. Last time I bought it there, it was on sale. Half price compassion. I'll treat it like full, though, because it's the same thing. Nonetheless, you know what I mean? And that's the problem with information, is that it doesn't teach you how to use it. So you can know everything, but if you don't have a little bit of empathy for the guy beside you, then you're just going to walk over him every time when you have something to say.
Again, it's back to the Jordan Peterson, right? It might be good for me, but if it's not good for anyone else, then it's just not good.
It's not good.
Right? It's just not our thing. Yeah. Where do you guys go for motivation?
You got this, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're my only motivation, so I got
this brother right here. For real, you know what I'm saying? I go to myself for motivation.
Yeah,
you know
not in a selfish way.
Not in a selfish way, but in the like, you have it in you. Be honest, man. To be negative.
Yeah.
You have it in you. If you're given the time or the ability, you could do anything. You know what I'm saying? Because the brain is such a beautiful thing. You feel me? The people that are doing whatever they're doing, they're digging inside of their self and bringing that creativity out. You know what I'm saying? So then why don't you become your own motivation? You know what I'm saying? The person that has the juices that will motivate others.
That's
you
powerful.
feel me? I don't got time to be sitting down and listening to this and this and this and the other. You know, when I can create that same content or even better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why can't I do that? You feel what I'm saying? I don't have a passion to go out there and be a mechanic or be something else. My motivation is this one thing. You know what I'm saying? So why don't I better myself by digging deep inside of me and getting that information and then motivate myself and then in return it motivate somebody else or inspire somebody else.
That's good. That's really good.
Oh, it's amazing, and that's why I threw it to him, is because to learn and dig deep within yourself like that, right? I don't have to look at, and not to use your guys or Tony Robbins or anything, but if I'm sitting there watching Tony Robbins and getting motivation from that, what's stopping me from being that? Why would I contribute, 600 hours of watching his stuff to learn to be better instead of just using those 600 hours to be better, right? And that's one of the things that every time I ask him something like that, he kind of flips me on my side, because I'm going, oh, I don't need to be investing all this into this and read this and listen to that. It's, what do I want to be? And how do I just get there? I just go there. I don't, there's lessons that we can learn along the way, but a lot of it is that internal drive that you want to be that instead of watch that.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, and I think it's beautiful. I don't think I have that in me. I think I need that outside. I need to talk to guys like you and to guys like you and Robbins and Peterson and psychologists and stuff like that to gain that motivation where I go, oh, that's way better than what I'm doing, and then I do that.
Yeah, but better is completely subjective. Right. So your message and the way that you deliver it is going to be good for somebody. Right? Maybe not for the same people that Tony Robbins speaks to, but it'll be your own people. It's just that you won't know unless you go out there. But if you go out there and try and be Tony Robbins, you're going to fail. Yeah. Right? Because you're you. So you need to just grab your motivation and go up and go do it. And then you'll find, and following is such a crap word, but you'll find the people that appeal, to your message when you just speak it. Just be that same thing from the very beginning, is be authentic with it. So you do have it. It might not be the way that you think you should deliver it, but as soon as you start speaking it, it's going to come out in a way that people will relate to you with.
And there's a bit of that fear in there, right? That is what I'm saying the right thing?
Yeah, don't compare yourself to others on that.
Right.
Because the reason why people will never come out straight and say that, do it yourself, is because there is a financial attachment to you depending on them. Right. So then if they say that, go out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, you still got to buy my merchandise. You still got to buy my stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because then that's how I'm going to get on that private jet. You feel what I'm saying? Get my Maybach too. 100. You know what I'm saying? But, basically, I think that God has blessed all of us, differently. And some people will have to go out there and search for stuff, and others, it just comes to them naturally. And if you know your strengths and know that, this is what it is that I'm cut out to do, and you do it well, the revelation keeps on coming. You feel what I'm saying? Ain't no way you're going to dry that up. There is no way you could ever dry things that are inside of you, as long as you're practicing them. You know what I'm saying?
That's
and
powerful.
The more that you keep on practicing it, is the more that you keep on getting the freshness of what it is that you're supposed to do. What I do, I ain't seen no blueprint out here in the streets.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I ain't seen no blueprint, but it works though.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I can't tell somebody to do the same thing because it's cut especially for me.
That's right.
Right.
It's specific for me. You know what I'm saying? If I write a book, you could read it and you could be like, oh man, this cat right here, this is some real truth, but it ain't gonna fit you because my shoe size different. You feel what I'm saying? So then you just gotta everybody gotta find something that is unique to them. You know what I'm saying? And we might be talking about the same thing, but you approach it differently.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
I never heard anybody say, when they're talking about Billy Graham, go, well, he's no Joe Rogan. or the other way, where neither one of them are Tony Robbins, right? Like each one of them is cut on their own shoe size. There. And that's the thing, is you're the same in a very unique way. Is that you go and do you, and you will get the same thing. And then nobody will ever say, well, Chad's no Joe Rogan, because that's not your market. But if you watch and try and emulate him, then they'll be like, oh, he's just trying to be like,
be like Rogan.
And so you got to be really careful about the inputs that you're putting into your life, because you don't want to be a combination of all those guys.
No,
you want to be you.
No, exactly.
And it's fine that they say things and all that, but I mean, I don't listen to a whole lot of the other podcasts unless they're close people to me, kind of thing, because I'm not trying to be them.
Right.
So I don't want to start talking like them. I don't want to start doing all these other things, because we've got a unique brand, and we're just going to do that. If
we don't want to muddy the waters.
Exactly. And one thing that, like, walking in here and then seeing the setup that you have in here, I'm like, man, this is beautiful.
Yes, nice.
This is amazing. I ain't seen this before. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is really nice. But would I want to do it? No. I wouldn't, this setup wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I admire it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I appreciate it. You feel what I'm saying? And I think it's the coolest thing.
Mhm.
But then it won't work for me.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? But then if I come into your studio and this is what the setup is, I'm gonna jive with it.
Cool.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I like it.
I had to get a special mic just for Abe because you see how he's kind of like and it doesn't work right, but he's dynamic, right? So I had to recognize that when I was getting technology is that I need to get something where Abe can move and flow and be all that. And I mean, that's just one part of this whole setup. I agree. I walked in and I'm just like, damn, I know that I can do that, but shoot. But the thing is that we actually added noise into our podcast because originally we were in a quiet room, and then it was only once we kind of got to the Starbucks where just the energy flowed a little bit differently. So being in a room wasn't the same. Like we like it when the police walk in behind us, and like, hey, like it's just that flowy kind of feel for us. And I mean, I love audio. Audio is my jam. I like clean cut, and all that, but Starbucks works. The ambient noise works for us, and then you got to be dynamic and move. Is it when they start the grinding machine? You got to you learn all these things, and it actually sounds better being there in that background noise kind of thing. It just seems to work.
Well, I remember when I was getting ready to start this, we had a bunch of practice ones with Mark, who's normally sometimes my co-host, and then I had my wife, and we're trying to decide what the flow of the podcast is going to be. So we just did our setup, we sat around, talked, and it was like, you can't do more than a half an hour. I'm like, nah, I can't even have a good conversation in a half an hour. I need it to be like minimum an hour, and I would like it to be 2. And then all of a sudden we start doing them, and we're getting like people like more content. We need more from you guys. Like 2 hours. Like I could do more than 2 hours, and I start feeling so. You always get all this input in your life saying, oh, this is good, this is bad, do this, don't do that, and you have to work that out is for what your end goal is, right? And I'm, I listen to people all the time. I think it's important to absorb what they're saying, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it every single time, right? But if someone with the technology background that you do says, hey, you know what, you really should upgrade these mics. Oh, okay, which one should I do? Because I'm not the expert in that. I mean, I bought this off of Kijiji for $300 and got the show started. But you always have to weigh that out, because just someone that looks like an expert isn't necessarily an expert.
Right, yeah.
The people that were advising me on how to do the podcast, they'd never done a podcast. What the hell are you telling me what to do for? Right? But sitting down with you when you said, oh, you try this and do this, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go try that stuff and see how it works for me.
Yeah, and then for us, we wanted 30 minutes because we just took the average drive time, the average commute time for somebody, and we either wanted to get them that they're just finishing the episode as they got to work and could finish the last 2 on a good note, or that they would finish it just a couple minutes before they got into work. It's a average 40-minute commute time, so you have enough to spend time and then actually process where we're at before you actually step foot in the office. So a lot of times we're even at 31 minutes and we're okay, we gotta pull this out even though it's a good one, and then we'll do a part 2 either right after or the next following week, because we want to make sure that people can get in and get out in the average amount of time that it would take somebody to drive. So and then it's only after we get a certain amount of episodes that they could listen to us all day. But the intent was just listen on the way to work so that you can focus but not be so distracted that you can't actually drive and be safe.
You're not yelling and screaming and distracting.
That's right. It's just you just simmer and have a good word of guys that are just trying to make the world a better place.
As a parent, like, this is all based around technology. Like, what is it, 8 years ago? This wasn't, or 10 years ago? This wasn't even
podcasting wasn't
even a thing, right? And so many people are against technology. It's wrecking your life. Social media is going to wreck your life. And I think this is all a great tool. I don't believe any of it is. And as a dad, I got to look and say, well, what's the right amount of time for my kid to be on the computer and to, and he mixes his time up between, video editing and graphic design and video games. So I think it's, if he spends 4 hours or 3 hours in an evening on it, I'm not broken up about that. What are your guys' feel on technology and how it's guiding our future? And is this detrimental to us or is this beneficial to us?
I just don't like the porn. It's so easy for the kids to get a hold of these days. So both of my kids have a billion different devices. They each got their own laptop. They each got their own, iPhone. my oldest has a circle of friends that they all have these iPhones and all that kind of stuff, because I think communication has changed over the years.
Yeah.
We don't have as much opportunity to walk home from school together as we used to. It's just a different world. So if that's their only method of communication with each other outside of that, then great. I'd love them to learn actually how to dial and answer a phone every once in a while. That'd be great. But I think exposure to technology is the way of the future, whether or not we want it to be.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars are coming and all that kind of stuff, where if they don't understand any kind of technology, they're going to be left behind.
They're going to be lost.
So I just have strict monitoring on mine, and my boys will let me know when they get certain pop-ups and stuff, and I'll talk to them about the content that they saw. I won't just take it and what were you doing, because it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the way that the internet's designed right now is that these kids are exposed at every single turn.
Time, yeah.
And so we try our best to protect, but even if we can't protect, then we have a discussion about it and make sure that they understand what they're seeing, why they're seeing it, what kind of industry that is, and all that kind of stuff. Because if you just tell them to stop, then they don't have enough content on why is that a bad thing, and what does it do, and is that reality, and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm all for technology. It's I can't get enough of it. So I got Abe will come over and, hey, I wish that I had this thingamajig that'll do like one of these, and I'll just whip it out of my back pocket. And that's the thing, is that I love technology.
Yeah.
So I mean, I spend my days are in technology. So I just, everywhere I get a chance, it's just that next thing. No, I don't need to have the latest iPhone XS 5.280, but I just like technology. I like to see where things are going.
Yeah. Back in the day when radio came out, actually even books, they said books were going to ruin people. They spent all their time reading. How are they going to get any work done? Like, this is a good thing for us. And then they went to radio, then to TV, and all these technologies were supposed to wreck us at one point, and they've only grown us as a culture.
Yeah, but everything that's come along always has that kind of dark side to it, because books came out, and then they had Penthouse and all that come out. So that's one thing, and then cars, they get the more horsepower in there. So there's always a danger that comes with everything. Right. But we had the same lessons from our parents back then. Is that if you're going to drag race, try and do it over here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are just all these conditions to it. It's just the only difference is that it's so much faster.
Yeah.
That we just got to make sure that we're more on top of it than our parents were. I mean, my parents only had to worry about me finding the magazine stash under the bed.
Right.
So, it had to be a pretty obvious hack. But now, with technology connected, find it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's getting thrown in your face. I never had to worry about at home that somebody was throwing a, Playboy magazine at my face. Right. But imagine back in the day, if that's what it was like compared to today. Yeah. Every street corner you went to, it'd be like Vegas, where they're flipping those cards, handing it to you. That's what it's like in the online world. So you got to manage that.
I remember when I volunteered for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, they had this massive interview process to make sure you're good and you're answer all the questions. I can't remember. I think it was like a 2 or 3 day process of going through. And one of the things was the pornography. And then like, well, what do you think about pornography? And I'm like, well, it's everywhere. Like if you turn on your TV, you're going to see a girl in a really skimpy bathing suit. If you're going, our bus stops that our kids sit at before they get picked up have derogatory pictures on them. And again, I'm on board with you. I'm not one of those people that are like, don't do that, it's bad. I'm like, okay, this is what's not good about this, and this is why people do this. And it's more of a give them a whole bunch of content and then let them decide. And I think
kids are way smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I 100% agree.
But that, again, that's just our society thinking that we know everything about everything.
Right.
If you can humble yourself to say, I'm telling this kid, to learn from what they see rather than telling him what to learn. Yeah. It changes everything.
100%. Yeah. I love that mentality. I hate being the ogre dad that like, stop doing that. Don't like. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the way it sounds. And so I just try to give. Hey, you realize when you do that, this is what everyone's hearing. This is what everyone's seeing. So this is maybe not a good idea for you.
Yeah, I usually even take that next step deeper and just get to the why did you do that? And then what you learn from that is just amazing, because then you see the inputs that are going into these children.
Right.
So, if they sit there and go and touch the hot stove even after you told them not to, you're kind of like, so why did you do that? Yeah. And then, they go into this whole curiosity thing or whatever, and you're kind of like, okay, that's great. So there are certain things in this world that, if you don't listen to me, you are going to get hurt, and these are consequences of that. But if you just say, don't touch the hot stove, you'll get burned. Yeah. Well, if they have no context of what burn means, then there's no reference to link the two together. So
I started doing that as of maybe a year or two ago, is asking my kids, why did you make that decision? Like even after I said, hey, if you keep yelling, you're going to lose your privileges, and then you kept yelling. So when they're calm, I'll go to them and say, hey, what were you? I told you what was going to happen. This is not a big secret. when did you think, or when do you think your kids actually got a grasp on why they were doing things?
So my oldest is doing way better than my youngest at this point. But yeah, it was about 10 or 11 years old where my oldest one
Yeah.
just clicked everything into place.
Wow.
And it's and I really don't like the word, subservient or anything like that, but I mean anything that we ask him to do is just done. There's no questions, barely even any grumbling these days, but the younger one is just procrastination and everything, but he's not 10 yet either. So I can't also put the same expectation on him because he's also an individual. So that's the thing, is that just based on watching the older one right now, I'll just keep doing that model until, but I can't, we find ourselves all the time, grilling on the young one. You even heard me say that here, but he's not the same age. He's not the same place in his life, and he's not that. So I'm hoping that, soon enough, he'll just turn around and do the same thing, and if not, I'll do the deep dialogue with him. It's all good.
we had my daughter first, and she was awesome. She was the best baby, and she's a rule follower. So we're like, man, we rock. We are so good at this. Let's have another one. And then my son came out the complete opposite. Like, what do I do?
And you taught him the same way, and they just grow up so different.
I was listening to a podcast on a guy that did genetics, and they said all the decisions your kid's going to make were decided when they were conceived, and so that there's something inside of their DNA that's going to give them, like, the culture will have a small amount of what our influence will be, a small amount, but it's already been determined. And then you look scripturally, and God basically he already knows what we're going to do. And so it's beautiful when you see those two come together, science and theology. But I see that in my kids, and now I sit back and I look at them and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to hound on this kid because this is just who he is. Unless it's harmful to him, for now or for the future. I basically let them kind of do what they want. And when things go real, I'm like, you guys get that I don't have a lot of rules for you, right? So these are the couple we got in the house that we got to follow. And but because of that, I think that's why I have a great relationship with my kids, is that I'm not that, this is the rule, don't do it anymore. Yeah,
it's that dialogue, and that's important in every relationship, though, too. I mean, most of the time
you don't give your wife rules.
Well, I was just getting into that. Is that what if we actually treated our spouses the same way we treated our kids? We'd have a way better marriage. That when we have a conversation, instead of us being right and them being wrong or whatever, what if we said, hold on a second here, let's back this off. Why is it that you feel the way that you do? And it's just going to turn out because you didn't kick the snow off your shoes before you came in, but you didn't know because you already went swinging into this other thing that is related to the bathroom being dirty. But she's already upset from that other thing. If you just asked, you'd know, but we don't do that.
Right. I have an admission. I did something horrible as a husband. We and my wife were arguing one time, and I literally walked in with a pen and paper, and I said, "Okay, just write down the stuff you want me to do." And the look on her face is like, "What kind of retard?" And I'm watching her going, "What? This is the best solution ever." It was not a good solution.
We seem so clever sometimes as men, is that we're very just solution driven. Just write it down.
Just write
and
down.
I'll follow this damn thing.
That would have worked.
Yep.
Never. I look back over my marriage, being a dad, being a husband, and all the mistakes I made, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, how did I even come to that conclusion that this would be? And it doesn't.
Yeah, at least we self-reflect. A lot of people don't. They just think that they're right, and their way is the only way, and then that's really, really damaging mentality. So I'm glad that you did.
Dr. Phil says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? And it's not about being a footstool or anything like that. It's like, okay, well, how's this going to work? It's not me against my wife or me against you. It's just like, what can we do to make our relationship better?
Well, and then people think that happy is being rich and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's things that there's too many links between what they think happiness and wealth and all those are, is that you can still be happy and be middle class. Or poor for that matter.
That's back to the scripture about why can God trust you with more if you can't handle what you got? If you're not happy with where you are now, why is he going to give you more to make you unhappy? It doesn't make you can fight for it and you can definitely get it, but just be happy. Like just make the choice that this is a good thing for you.
For real.
Well, guys, I think we're like an hour and a half in. Do you guys have anything you wanna plug? You get your show, 2 shows.
Aaron, you do that there, man. You do it good, bro.
I'm almost wondering if we should go for brunch over at Abe's.
Oh, Abe's the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's not your restaurant, is it?
No, it ain't my restaurant.
Okay.
But it's their people.
They're my people, though. They're my people. You know what I'm saying? 100. Yeah.
No, I mean overall, we just respect Starbucks. We thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for
over
coming.
here. It was really, really good, and yeah, I mean overall for us, we give a couple of shout outs, odds and ends and all that, but we just like what we do, and we like to just get together with other people. Whether you're like minded or not, I think that there's just a way to have a discussion.
Absolutely.
And you can make things happen, and as long as people are talking in a way. It's productive. So this, goes back to those original goals of how do I make the people around us better, and you guys make me better in this episode, and so in turn I can now go make other people better. So mission accomplished.
100.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. You've given me lots to think about, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to give people something to think about, change their lives and make it better. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the motivation you gave me in the beginning with the podcast and coming on the show, and definitely have you back again.
Sure, no, that'd be a good
100,
time.
100.
Yeah, for
Awesome.
sure.
And so this is Chad with I Want to Know, with the guys from 2A Straight and
Sure.
Conversations with Abe. And we'll see you guys on the next show. Have a good day.